Death comes for you, whether you can see him or not. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Speed Metal Dark Flash. When the speedsters are so fast, how could Death possibly catch them? A dark amalgamation seemingly of the Speed Force's own design, with little known about it. It comes clad in black speedster suit with rotting undead face. It collects the dead of those gifted with speed to return them to the Speed Force at the end of their lives. That still doesn't stop the speedsters from trying to outrun their own personal Reaper. When one's time comes up, they often see their life flashing before their eyes. Or you'll see this guy flashing before your eyes. Before we get a closer look, though, at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Speed Metal Dark Flash, that's a bit of a mouthful, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys, yes I would, that did provide this sample that we're about to have a look at. Grabbing no down to the tape measure, which didn't come at lightning speed, taking right to the very top of Dark Flash's head, the figure stands 6.5 inches in height, yes it does, or the figure's about 17 centimeters tall. Then for those that are trying to outrun this guy, here's what the Dark Flash looks like not only against the Flash, but here's also what he looks like next to the Reverse Flash. Now, while both Flash and Reverse Flash on either end of him actually seem to be sharing the same body, it doesn't look as if, at least with my own untrained eye, that the Dark Flash is using many, if not any, of the component pieces that made up the other two bookend on either side of him. Generally, the rule of thumb for those that run at lightning speed is that their figures tend to only come with a trading card, a display stand, and speed effects that attach somewhere onto the figure's body. You can check off all three when it comes to Dark Flash, as the figure comes with all three. First of which, the figure comes included with a trading card. Very astute viewers will notice right away the one that we're looking at here is in the middle. And then bookended, there I go talking about bookends again, on either side of him seem to be variations of this figure. I would like to at some point to be able to pick these ones up. The ones, though, behind them are simply just repeating the ones that we're seeing in the foreground. But it looks like the bodies are going to be the same with all the three, and only the head sculpts are the things that are going to be changing. Then on the back of the card, real name is unknown, and then a paragraph read. You can either pause and read for yourself, or, yes, as always, it's the same thing I read at the beginning of this video. I'm going to put this to the side. The figure also comes included with a display stand. Nothing really new to report here necessarily. It's just a circular stand with the peg up the top corner. Psst. Branded down below in the dead middle here is the DC logo. This can attach to either one of Dark Flash's feet, as he does have peg holes on the undersides. One thing to note, though, is that the display stand did have a peg, a normal-sized peg that comes with these stands, but I did really have to twist it to get it onto his feet. It seemed almost as if the Dark Flash had slightly smaller feet holes. I don't know. Anyways, it did get obviously onto his display stand. I did use this at the beginning of the video. We're going to put that to the side. It's likely going to be coming back at the end of the video. In the meantime, though, the figure also comes included with some Speed Force effects. Now, these don't look to be ones that attach onto the arms. They're not also identical to one another either. They are slightly different from one another. You can see that there's an opening on both the sides. Essentially, what you're going to be doing with this is that you're going to take these, and I can only assume that these are going to be clipping around his ankles. So you just fit that around one of his ankles. Maybe you want to have it the opposite way so it's angled upward, because there's kind of a real definitive angle to this. And then rinse and repeat the steps and do it on the exact same side. Well, exact same thing on the other side. Now these just easily pry away, and then from there you just put these around the ankle area of the Dark Flash. I keep wanting to call him the Black Flash, but Dark Flash, and he has sort of like Speed Force effects. It doesn't really necessarily impede him then attaching onto the display stand, because of course the holes are still quite visible. Just attach on the display stand from there. I suppose you could technically also put it on his arms, but I think for the sizing of them, they make more sense to be attached onto his ankles. Go ahead and remove these right now, and getting now a closer look at the Dark Flash. Honestly, though, between the three, the one that was provided to be my McFarlane Toys, I think is the better of the three. The other two sort of had more grimaced faces. This one has a screaming face. The stellar sculpting that they put into this piece is fantastic. You can see there what's left at least of his nose. His nasal cavity is still there. And he does have an open mouth with a pair of teeth on the top and the bottom. What I find somewhat funny is, though, all his body is starting to deteriorate, and yet his teeth are still fine. Dental records wouldn't even be an issue. Simply would just be able to look at the guy's teeth and know right away who he was. The coloring is really good on this one as well. I like the use of the purple that they end up using for not only his arms, but of course the front of his face, and it does go quite well with the black that they use for the rest of his body. It's not a solid black either. I don't know if you can actually see it or not. It's almost got a slight purple tint to it. It's a matte black. One thing I found was rather interesting about it, it does look like it's using a brand new mold. Again, to bring back in, let's bring back in Reverse Flash here. I thought maybe, if anything, they may have retooled the abdomen area. But it does look like he's sporting a brand new upper torso. It does look like he's also using different legs. Again, they could have retooled the existing legs. Really, once you get the musculature down for the mold, it's easy then just to go back and change what the things you need to do and what need to be changed to it. Feet also, one thing that's interesting about the Black Flash, or the Dark Flash, is if you compare the feet size, this is what I found kind of funny. His feet are considerably smaller than, say, someone like Reverse Flash. I don't know why his feet have to be as tiny as they are, but it's almost laughable, the size of feet, the size of footwear that this man would have to be buying for himself. Gonna go ahead and put the Reverse Flash down for right now. One thing I really like also about this figure is the use of the gold that they've done. The gold here is on the front emblem, the Flash emblem. It's also here on the side, the little lightning bolt fins that he has on the sides of his face. This is a pretty soft plastic. At least it's soft plastic and not brittle plastic. Brittle plastic is the kind of plastic you'd have to worry about. Softer plastic, short of just bending and warping out of shape, you at least don't have to worry about them breaking. Really like the coloring of his eyes, too. Not that they necessarily glow, but it almost looks like if you put them underneath a lamp source, they'd probably be able to illuminate. They don't, though. But I overall really like the look of the head sculpt. And again, like when you're looking at the body, for example, he still has pretty strong, muscular-looking arms, but you can see like the skin is really starting to peel away. There's no really additional paint added onto that. It's simply just the coloring of the plastic that they use, but they added, of course, the gold on the bracelets, the little gauntlets that he has, and also added some really nice gold use here on the front of his belt, or where his belt normally would be. And of course, he's got that also running down the insides of his thighs and across the top here as well. The only thing I would really say, short of the fact that he has really, really tiny looking feet, I can't believe how small his feet are. The only other thing I would say to that is I just really like the look of the figure. Probably could have used a little bit more paint. I mean, especially the kind of plastic that they've used here. The matte plastic almost seems a little more faded, but I guess maybe that works quite well with a character like Dark Flash. Like his skin, his suit itself obviously is just sort of faded and not as bright as maybe what it was. Also, you'll notice too, when it comes to the top of his torso seems notably darker than the lower half of his body. I have to wonder if maybe they've painted the top of his torso and left the bottom of his, like from this part down, if they left that only just the molding of the plastic, because there's a little bit of a divide where definitely one is a little bit darker than of course, the part that's down below. For the articulation here, for the Dark Flash, head rotates all the way around. Of course it does on a ball joint. Does look up, pretty good. Does look down, also pretty good. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. His mouth, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering, is a little more of a softer plastic. Not that you would be able to close his mouth, but I guess if you wanted to heat that, you could close it a little bit more than what it is right now. But I love the idea that he's actually screaming. He does have the shoulder cup joints there on the inside. I did notice on mine, though, very loose. This one side's not so bad, but this side here almost seems like it's too much of a gap left behind. I keep trying to push this back in. But even just to move this out, you'll see that there's a little gap that starts to show when you have the arm too far back. I feel like the cup joint isn't sitting properly inside the torso. Still, though, the arms rotate all the way around. Again, this one here, really loose. This one's not as loose. Bicep swivel on the figure. Double hinge also on the elbow on the figure. And the figure also has rotation in the hand all the way around. Upper torso ball joint. Lower torso ball joint. A split on the legs, once again using a ratchet joint on the inside there. Legs go forward and back. The lower end of him, at least from the waist down, here's a softer plastic. So that, of course, helps to cover over the joint. But it does, as you move the legs out, sort of cause this part of the plastic to start to warp a little bit. So you might find the more you're posing his figure, this part of the lower waist section may start to lift up, may start to curl a little bit. He has a little bit of a weight, a little bit of a thigh swivel, not by much though. Double hinge on the knee. No real articulation here for the boot, although the feet do hinge back and forth, rock back and forth this way, and the figure also has toe articulation on his tiny little feet. The only other thing I would also add to this figure is the fact that some of the joints, as already mentioned, like his arms, for example, his shoulders, seem very loose. It's strange because I don't think this mold's been used for anything else, correct me if I'm wrong. But overall, I just really do like the look of Dark Flash. I'm now certainly compelled to pick up the other two. I think I'll probably stop at the two, even though the trading card, which we'll bring back in right now, even the trading card has, 3 on the front, likely maybe 4 or 5 in the background here. I think I'm willing just to stop at the one that we looked at in this review, and the 2 variations on either side of him, as it would have made no sense whatsoever to take the Speed Force effects and have it angled upward. I've decided here for final looks, as the Dark Flash spins around on the rotisserie, to only just use the one. The beauty of these, at least, is that they clip anywhere onto the figure's body, but the sizing of them, of course, they make a little bit more sense to attach onto his legs and rather not attaching onto his arms. Dark Flash has some really good coloring going for him. Yes, again, like the lower half of him isn't quite as dark as the top half of him, and there isn't really a lot of paint that they put into this piece. I understand that they probably would have only maybe taken the top of his torso, molded it likely in the purple and painted over top of it, because it looks like the purple was likely the base color for at least the top half of Dark Flash, maybe not necessarily the bottom. What color he does have, the gold is nicely added for the emblem on the front of his chest, as well as lightning bolt and panel lining that he has also in his lower half as well. I like the head sculpt, and certainly do feel compelled to pick up the other two. The beauty of these, at least, is that you don't have to get all 3 if you don't want. Simply pick the one that you like the most, but I think the one that was provided to me by the folks over at McFarlane Toys, I feel is the superior of the 3. Which one do you prefer? This one with his open screaming face, or do you prefer the other 2 that have the grimace teeth instead? Let me know down below in the comments section. And as again already mentioned, once again a big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Speed Metal Dark Flash that we can have a look at in this video. If you enjoyed this video, if you don't mind me asking, why not hit with a like? If you're loving the content you're seeing and certainly do want to stick around for more, if you don't mind me asking, why not hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification, which is right next door. It's its neighbor to the subscribe button. As well, popping up at the very end of this video will be a playlist of other DC Multiverse reviews that I've done in the past. Feel free to check that out if you have a little bit of time on your hands. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.